Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Samasta Jana Kalyani Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahma Vidvaram. In the previous session, Bhagavan made the difference between Swadharma and Swabhava. Our Swabhava, known as inner disposition, is decided by the combination of gunas, Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. But the vasanas are decided by the experiences that we have had in this life and the previous life. And according to Bhagavan Krishna in Gita, Swabhava is inner disposition, our faculties and abilities which are necessary for us to undertake our Swadharma. And the vasanas can influence the individual to influence the action, convert the action into indulgences, such as greed, power, possession, etc. When we take up our Swadharma according to our Swabhava, but not to appease our vasanas, the existing vasanas will get exhausted through the very activity itself, and new vasanas will not be created. So one need not have to change one's profession or line of work for exhausting one's vasanas, because as the vasanas get reduced, we can see ourselves getting released and becoming free. So any work undertaken as Swadharma will eventually release one from the bondages. Why the Swabhava of one's own does not affect oneself? The example given by Gurudev is, Swabhava of each one cannot destroy oneself. The corroding poison in the fangs of a serpent never kills the serpent itself. In the same way, Swadharma taken according to Swabhava is only for one's own personal growth. Continuing, he said, that very Swadharma should be undertaken with devotion. Every group that aims to achieve a goal must recognize the individual's strength and weaknesses. Working on the strength will require confidence to accept the weakness and eventually overcome it. Just like in a group dynamism, it is enhanced only when every member of the group understands that their role as a duty. The same thing applies in the family and social responsibilities also. That means performance of one's own duty is the way to cultivate devotion through action. How does action cultivate devotion? First of all, realize that everyone is acting according to one's own swabhava and are all required for the world to function smoothly. Just as every limb in our body, both known and unknown, is needed for the body to function efficiently and healthily. Secondly, recognize that even though there is apparent disconnect between person to person, there is a cohesive purpose of happiness that is inherently driving everyone to engage in the world. This seeking of eternal happiness is the divine presence of God, working through each one according to one's own swabhav. So devotion is cultivated when the awareness of His presence is recognized in every being, even while engaged in fulfilling one's own duty and by offering it to the Lord. So Gurudev said, when unbroken awareness of the Lord becomes a constant habit of the mind, dedication becomes effective and man's evolution starts. So when we are dealing with people, we are not to judge whether that person deserves our love or not, deserves our respect or not, because show respect even to people who don't deserve it, not as a reflection of their character, but as a reflection of yours. Once I read a particular instance where a wise person went to a pawn shop and asked for the pawn. That person, he was in a bad mood. He said, I won't give you any pawn. He asked, why? I don't feel like giving it to you. Oh, is it so? All right. And he took the money out of his pocket and put it on the table and said, here is the money for the pawn. So that person asked, I didn't give you, why are you giving money? They say, you giving me pawn or not is your decision. Whether I give you money or not is my decision. I have to give you this money, whether you give pawn or not. This looks funny to us, But he says that my intent to buy is always there. Whether you are selling it or not is your choice. Similarly, extending this very example, whether to smile at the world or not is my choice. Whether as a reciprocation, the world smiles or not, it's not our choice. When we have to do something, we will do it. Whether the world recognizes it or not, whether acknowledges it or not, that is not to be decided by you. So in the world, we give respect to everyone, whether they deserve it or not. But whether they will receive it or not is decided by their own choices. So this is how we understand how the wise people are able to continuously give love. That is called unbroken awareness about the Lord. It becomes a habit of the mind. So the exhaustion of vasanas, how does it take place? Until all the vasanas are fully exhausted, freedom from sorrow will not be accomplished. At the physical level, the vasanas express as sense pleasures, wealth, etc. Vasanas only will multiply if indulgence and greed continues. For this, dispassion is the solution. At the emotional level, vasanas will demand companionship, relationships. The knowledge will tell us that every relationship is built upon reciprocity. None is permanent except the soul's relationship with God. So no companionship will be everlasting. Every relationship is a demand for a reciprocation. If you don't give, you will not receive. Give and take is the nature of all relationship. Except with God, where He continuously gives, whether we acknowledge it or not. Intellectual level, the vasanas are in the form of social status, self-respect, etc. So that how to overcome that? By understanding happiness that is decided by others enslaves us. Eternal joy is inherent in us, which is independent of everything. At the religious parlance, the vasanas expressed as beliefs and practices. We should understand religion is a vital support for spiritual progress, but it should not become a preoccupation of the mind. So the performance of duties with dispassion and devotion to God, while you continue to discover the inherent joy through solitude in meditation and religious practices with an aim to become free of desires. This is what Bhagavad-Gita teaches us. Continuing, Bhagavan Krishna says, how do I understand my inborn traits? Swabhav. So he says, Lord Krishna emphasizes that action prompted by inborn impulses should not be given up. However, the same person should not pursue those which are created by situations where one is born into. One is born with, another is born into. Let me give an example. When you are hungry, you eat. Hunger is not decided by you. It is decided by the pranas in you or the body that is exhausting its energy and seeking more energy by eating food. So, hunger is born with you. It is always there. At times it expresses and you give food. But instead of eating just that, because there are many other items, sweets, ice creams, chocolates, candies, cigarettes, many other things are also kept there for you. And if you go into that and you want to indulge in that, that is not needed. In this example, what is needed, you give. What is demanded and desired by the mind, that is vasana. That need not be fulfilled. So, for example, a Brahmana boy having impulses to join the army and serve the country is inborn. Let us say. For him to pick up the job of worship and scriptural study, though considered noble in the world, does not exhaust his vasanas. Just because he is born in a Brahmin community or a Brahmin family does not mean he has to take up only that job. Though that's what the world thinks he should do. But he is not inborn with that kind of any kind of desire. Then if he is forced to do that, he will be miserable throughout the life. Just like Arjuna, who is born with the traits of a Kshatriya, not because he was born to a king, he was born with those traits and he was excelling in the archery and warfare. And now he thinks that let me take sannyas, let me go into renunciation. That will be resulting only in misery. And neither he will exhaust the vasanas of his own as a Kshatriya, nor he will really glide into the state of renunciation, because that is not natural to him. Therefore, what is inborn must be discovered, and accordingly the action should be taken up, not decided by the circumstances in which one is. So, how to know what is inborn? Do not evaluate this merely by your caste or family lineage. So, in the past, it so happened, people have decided to take up the profession according to what the family or the lineage or what one's own father was doing. But then one has forced oneself to behave and act accordingly. In today's world, even if a person is born in a particular family of certain profession, one has to decide and evaluate one's own inclinations. So find out which field of work satisfies you, even if you are not adequately compensated for what you're doing. And also find out which field of work your mind easily engages and enjoys without much effort. Only when we engage in an action without much effort, we will be able to learn also. When you are working with so much of exertion, inner turmoil, internally you are agitated because you are forced to do that, you will never learn. You will never improve. You will never progress. You will not enjoy. But at the same time, do not say, oh, I enjoy laziness. I don't want to do anything. I just want to be, lying around, sleeping. That is not what is considered as inborn. Inborn faculties, inborn nature should decide on a field of work where the mind easily engages and enjoys without much effort. Even if the chosen field of work is comparatively lower in standard, one should not give up. That's what Krishna says, that swadharme nidanam shreyaha paradharmo bhayabaha. If one is considering one's own action, the field of action, as lower than what others are doing, one should continue. So a butcher who is enjoying the very act, even though butchering is not considered as a very proud profession, yet if he is able to concentrate, enjoy, and do dedicatedly that work, that will be better than doing some other work where one is neither qualified nor has a mind to it. Even if that is considered as great by others, one would not completely exhaust the vasanas, nor one would find joy or contentment in doing that. In today's world, unfortunately, people are forced to go to work for economical demands. Two people's salary is necessary for upkeep of the family. So though mothers are essentially would enjoy being with the children, educating them, talking to them, playing with them, making sure the child slowly grows up with maturity. So that is the motherhood. She enjoys doing that. But then forcefully one is asked to go to work and 8 to 10 hours. But given a chance, she would definitely enjoy being with the child. If one is able to maintain moderately comfortable life with one person's income, the mother should remain as a mother only until some point of time when the child grows up and then he become independent. Then the mother can take up some work, because instead of just being at home, one can do the work. But if the economy of the family is able to maintain itself, then mother should be there with the child who is growing up, who needs assistance, who needs care. Because if we lose the chance of giving the right values to the child at the growing time, later on, when you regret that the child did not have any of those, is a waste. So these are the things to be understood. Our Gurudev has said, when there is egocentric sense of self-arrogation, the I am the doer sense, then there is invariably creation of new vasanas, and therefore it is full of defects. So what makes us gain new vasanas is a sense of enjoyership and doership that our ahankar, the ego, continuously holds on to. I want more, I want to enjoy this, I want to enjoy that. This way, the mind is running out to indulge, creating new vasanas. And whereby the existing vasanas are not exhausted and new vasanas have come to occupy, the mind is filled with such things and can never find itself free. It is like you are working in an office and you have few files that are there on your table for you to look at it, put your comments on, and then pass it on to the next individual. Instead of doing that, if you are watching a TV or looking at the browsing in your office computer, and then more and more new files will come, while all the files are not moved. New files will come piling up on your table. At some point of time, when the crucial auditing or some cutoff time, when it comes deadline, you will be overwhelmed with so many things to do. You'll find yourself stressed. When we postpone, when we procrastinate, we will definitely have to face the consequence. In the same way, why we are born in this world, those vasanas have to be exhausted by action, and instead of that, we do something else. And obviously, we will be accumulating more vasanas only to come back again and again and again. That is what Krishna is trying to emphasize here. Gurudev calls the whole teaching of Bhagavad-Gita as spiritual psychology of Vedanta. Both spirituality and psychology, both are involved in these teachings. For example, the basic ignorance is the cause of desires, and desire is the cause of thoughts. And these thoughts are those which express as actions. Usually, psychology students would not understand ignorance as the cause of desire, because all we can evaluate is only action. We do not know what thoughts have gone behind those actions. That's why when you are going to consult with a psychiatrist or psychologist, such a person, what calls counseling, when you do, so you will find that they will talk about your emotions, desires, intentions, memories, and then decide or understand how and why you are behaving in a way you have been behaving. But they never go beyond the desires. Whereas Vedanta says our physical activities, intentions, everything depending upon what we know about ourselves and what we don't know about ourselves. What we know is limited, and because of which we do not know ourselves completely. That is why ignorance is considered as the Mula Karanam, a primary cause for all our behavioral issues as well as emotional outbursts, inability to work well, stress and strain in life. That is not the area the psychology of the West would go into. So actions cannot be without thoughts, while activities can continue without thoughts. Let me explain this. So when you have decided to go to workplace, taking your car and driving to your workplace, that driving the car by you and going and reaching the workplace is an action. That has a desire behind it. What's a desire? And that I have to go and work and get my work complete in the office. That is a desire. And then the desire has prompted you to act in the form of taking up your car and driving it all the way in the traffic and then reach there. Let us take another example. I am thirsty. I drink water. or I'm hungry, I eat food. Hunger is not a desire. Hunger is a function of the stomach that requires you to act upon, not out of desire, but out of necessity. It is your duty to fill the stomach with food or give the food, and not it is out of desire. So, when you eat food, and then after when you finish eating, the digestion and other processes are taking place, this is not action, this is activity of the body. So karma is action, kriya is activity. So when you are digesting the food, it is not you who is doing it. It's taking place in spite of you. Whether you like it or not, whether you are conscious or not, whether you want it or not, whether you are aware of it or not, it takes place. That is activity. Whereas you are aware, you want, you plan, and you engage. That is action. So actions are always born of desires and not activities. Activities take place whether you desire or not. Having understood that, thought is a link between subject I and the rest, the objects. Every action has got a thought behind it, not activity. Every action has got a thought behind it. And what is a thought? It is subject I and the rest of them. While thought is internal, its expression is external, action. Now, desire is I and I want. If want is absent, there is no desire, but the pure I remains. I want to eat. I want to see a movie. I want to go for vacation. So want is in the form of desiring something. So if that is removed, the want is removed in the I want, I is still there. That is called pure I. Pure I is that which does not move from itself to become a wanting individual. So the beauty of Gita is, it says, if desire is present, then it is complete only when it expresses through thought and action. But if a desire is, what is desire? It is a lack of happiness. Seeking external happiness is natural for all beings that are ignorant of the self, which is the abode of happiness. So if desire is present, it will become thought, and thought is present, it will become an action. What is desire? It is emptiness to be filled. I'm unhappy, I want to become happy. And the desire is want to become happy, for which I will go after things. Because if I know I am already happy, then there is no need for me to have a desire to do something. See, this absence of knowledge of me is as already happy. It is like a person is sleeping and dreaming the same. And in the dream, one thinks, then one has to wake up. In the dream, he thinks he's sleeping. In the dream, he wants to wake up. And he is desiring to wake up. And then he's trying hard, and actually he wakes up. When he wakes up, the desire to wake up in the dream is ended. Because in the desire one wants to do has already happened when he wakes up. What? To know only that I am awake. In the same way, desiring something to enjoy is within the realm of dream. And when he wakes up, he says that person who was desiring something is no more. Desire ended, and the one who wants a desire also ended. Hope you understand that. Not only the desire ended from the dreamer, the dreamer himself has ended. In the same way, when one comes to have the realization of oneself as happiness, the one who is seeking the happiness comes to an end. And along with him, his desire, thoughts, and action, everything will come to an end. So just as a rich man, son of a rich man begs on the streets due to being self-forgetful, ignorance of the self, which is naturally blissful, causes the desires, thoughts, and action. This self-forgetfulness, I am already of blissful, that is not I am aware. Therefore, like a beggar, I'm looking for happiness all over, everywhere. Through eating and drinking and meeting and talking and going here and there. All that are because I think I am unhappy. This self-forgetfulness can be overcome only by self-recognition. Therefore, when self-knowledge takes place, no desires. Because of no desire, no thoughts. There are no thoughts, no action. This is called Naishkarmya Siddhi in Sanskrit. Actionless state. That is, when the self-knowledge takes place, where the self-forgetfulness is replaced by self-recognition, no more desires remain, and hence no thoughts, and the state of actionlessness. Bhagavan Krishna says this state of actionlessness is actually renunciation, sannyasa. Sannyasa is not giving up. Sannyasa is no more desire prompted action. Giving up is where I own and I reject. Here, there is no giving up, really speaking. It is only rising above in a situation where there is no more demand for action. So that is the reason why self-knowledge is considered as the direct antidote for all the misunderstandings that we have. This self-forgetfulness must be ended. And the Guru and the Shastra are helping us to recognize ourselves, who I am. When I come to know who I am, which earlier I have misunderstood to be something else, when I come to know clearly, there is no more desire for anything because I am aware of my joyful, blissful nature. So, Bhagavan Krishna says, this ability to remain actionless and abide in one's own self is called Jnana Nishtha, self-abidance. You have found your home. You have found your abode. So, abidance is necessary to remove even the last traces of vasanas which remain as obstacles. So even as one completely understands oneself as the blissful one, still there are certain, traces of vasanas will still be there, which need to be overcome, and therefore one has to abide. Abide is samadhi. Abidance is like a musician fine-tuning his musical instrument before the performance. You might have seen a violinist or a guitarist, the flautist, all of them, before engaging in that performance, they will start tuning. In fact, before every song, they will start tuning up. Because while playing, it will slowly lose that fine-tuning, And therefore, they have to completely tune again according to the song that is coming up. In the same way, even though I am blissful by nature, because of the world around me and also the prarabdha or the past actions, there can be certain obstacles that may be there that will not allow me to remain in my own blissful state. Therefore, attempts to abide is what is necessary, called jnana and niষ্ঠা. So essentially, the abidance takes place there in the Om, in the pure self. Here indicating Om indicates the state of oneness with Brahman, oneness with the absolute self, oneness with God, so to say, oneness with oneself. Now that very Om, how will we be able to abide in that self? With no grief and seeking nothing, remaining serene and being same to all, gains supreme devotion to God. This is the state of a Mahatma or a wise person while he is abiding in the self. It is not that he will sit in solitude all the time. No, even as he is away from the meditation, as he has come out of his practice of meditation, he has no more grief about anything. Grief is always about what is not, what we got which is not expected, what we expected did not happen, or losing some near and dear ones. No grief means recognizing everything as temporary. Therefore, there is no grief. And the same thing, seeking nothing, because I am complete with myself, blissful I am. So why do I seek anything outside? And remaining serene and being same to all. Such a person gains supreme devotion to God, and the supreme devotion to God itself is abidance in the self also. We'll come to that a little later. How did he reach that point? Because he has removed the traces of ego, traces of exertion towards trying to get what one wants, arrogance, desire, and anger, all this through renunciation of myness. Ego is always about what I own, what is mine. Let us say I have a latest model phone. I bought it. So when I have a latest version of the iPhone, no doubt I'm enjoying using that, but I also want to show off to others. You see, I have got the latest iPhone 11, iPhone 13, iPhone 15, whatever. So there is certain amount of ego, pride, and desire. Everything is in a complex. So where an individual has lost the sense of myness, the ownership, such an individual has nothing to arrogate about, nothing to be egoistic about. So that the traces of this ego, desire, arrogance, exerting for the sake of completing what one wants, all of them come to an end. Only then he will have no more grief and seek nothing and devotion to God. Only then he can fully abide in the self. Now, how does he come to have no ego at all? About what? So here, he has already completed the having the dispassion with total withdrawal from speech, body, and mind, and frugal eating while seated in meditation. So the abidance takes place because of the no seeking. That takes place because of the absence of ego. That takes place because of dispassion. You're coming down, because everything is a reason. Complete dispassion over everything, including speech, body, and mind. And Minimum eating and engaging in quiet meditation. This is the way he has reached that point. And that how it happened? Because he have let go the sense pursuits completely and the likes and dislikes from the mind. So the outermost layer is the thickest layer. Likes and dislikes, sense pursuits. Once it is overcome, then the thinner layout is that is indulgence in eating, engaging in speech, body and mind, and lack of dispassion. So therefore, one has to overcome that by dispassion, etc. That is a little more thinner. Further thinner is the ego. That also is overcome. Further thin is seeking something from the world, even recognition. That also overcome with the devotion, and then one abides in the self. From the outermost layer, which is here indicated into the blue, one has to travel towards the Om. This is how abidance, jnana nishta takes place according to Bhagavan Krishna. In this very chapter 18, Bhagavan Krishna, as a conclusion of all his teachings, he points out the link between knowledge, devotion, and action. Because they are considered usually as three different paths: Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, and Jnana Yoga. But Krishna says they are actually not three different things. They are all necessary for a person to evolve to the higher level. Abidance in the self is same as complete surrender to God. Devotion is marked by the absence of separateness from the beloved. So too is the abidance in the self is remaining as the self without any thought of individuality or ego. So surrender and nishta, what we call it as prapatti and nishta, abidance and surrender, both are same. One is the devotion is marked by the absence of separateness from the beloved. A true devotee does not feel oneself different from the Lord. And that is true devotion. Even though it begins with the division, God is different, I am different, he is a master, I am the servant, he is all-knowing, I am little, he is all-capable, I am incapable, he knows everything, I know nothing. This kind of a separateness is where religion begins. And the religion essentially asks you to not, try to do everything on your own, but surrender to God. But that kind of a surrender without knowing why am I surrendering is not going to help you. Just where God may be all powerful. My surrender is not out of slavery, out of weakness, but by understanding if he's all powerful, I'm included in that. If he's all knowing, I'm included in that. If he's all pervading, I'm also involved in that. I'm included in him. I'm a part of him. Without him, I cannot say separately. This is a true devotion. The surrender is not out of helplessness. Surrender is out of understanding. My hand cannot do anything without me. Hand is part of me. It cannot do anything without me. In the same way, I cannot do anything without him. I am part of him. And can I exist independently? No. So the absence of separateness is surrender. Whereas a person who is walking the path of knowledge knows that I am essentially him only. The apparent difference is only when I look at myself at the level of body or the mind. In essence, spiritually speaking, I am him only. Consciousness is one. It's not divided. Then in both the cases, there is absence of individuality or ego. So Krishna says, by devotion, he knows my essence as who I am. Then he enters into me. Mam vishati. Mayi vishati. He enters into me. What does it mean? As Gurudev says, the term entry is used here exactly in the same fashion as the dreamer enters into the waking state. The dreamer enters the waking state. What does it mean? When the dreamer enters the waking state, the dreamer is no more. You cannot have a dreamer and waker simultaneously. Swamiji, I'm half awake, half dreaming. That may be possible. Sometimes we may have that kind of condition also. But when the dreamer enters into the waking state, is he really entering? No, he's awakening. He's coming to recognize. And that also takes place quickly. It's not the dreamer slowly, 10% awake, 20% awake, 30% awake. Sometimes you wake up and then go to sleep also. That doesn't mean that you are slowly waking up. Once you wake up, the dreamer is lost, gone. In the same way, by love for the Lord, Krishna says, he will come to know who I am, and then he enters into me, meaning he is no more, I alone exist. No, this abidance result in a stagnant, unproductive existence. Meaning when one who abides in the higher self or completely devoted to God, he will stop doing everything else, because earlier it is said he will reach the state of actionlessness. Naishkarmya Siddhi. That means that he will no more act. Now, Krishna explains this. One who has realized the self through knowledge and meditation, and the essence of God through devotion, will engage in selfless service by taking refuge in him. He gains the eternal abode of God. One who has realized oneself as his presence, God's presence, thereafter he will behave and act the way God will do to his creation. How does God behave with his creation? Tell me. As indifferent? Careless? No. The creation being my own extension, I will make sure that everybody gets what they want. Everybody is taken care. Everybody is loved. Everybody is given their opportunities to grow. Is it not? In my own physical body, every day I take shower or a bath, making sure that every part of the body is clean, and proper food and exercise, and therefore my body will be healthy, so that I can live a life without much disturbance from my body. In the same way, Ishvaraha, the Lord, takes care of every being with love, with concern, with care. In the same way, a Mahatma who has realized the essence of God, he will not be indifferent to the world. He will not live a careless life. He will not live an indulging life. He will live a life with maximum benefit for others. Care and love he will give to all people, because he can see it is that Lord alone who is expressing himself as many as the world. Following the footsteps of a realized wise person, the seeker should also engage in the following. What are those? Study of scriptures, contemplation and practice of meditation in the path of knowledge, daily prayers and complete surrender to God's will, devotion, serving everyone with love, without any anxiety about the result, path of action. So, though the Mahatmas do it effortlessly, they engage in the study not because they want to know, but only to share with others. And contemplation and meditation they engage in to experience their abidance in the self. And therefore, when they do it, they do effortlessly, whereas a seeker, a sadhak, should do it with effort. The only difference between these wise person and an unwise is a wise person can engage in knowledge, devotion, and action effortlessly, whereas the seeker should do it with interest and intention and with effort. Just like a trained musician can sing effortlessly because he has already trained himself so well beforehand, so that when he performs on the stage, it doesn't look like he has any strain. But a person who is a student, who wants to reach that effortless state, must put all the efforts. So knowledge, devotion, and action must be connected, understood properly. All have their role to play. By knowledge, I can abide. By devotion, I can love my own being as the Lord. And with that, I engage in action, knowing the world is none other than Lord himself, therefore serving everybody with the same devotion. This is how the three paths are connected: knowledge, devotion, and action. Continuing, Bhagavan Krishna wants to explain, action should be done by choice or without a choice. Serving the world through your own particular field of activity should be done with choice or by choice or without choice. Now here, an unwise person, acts without choice. Propelled by the desires and prompted by the inherent tendencies, vasanas. When we look at our own life, in everyday life, how we act, most of our actions are prompted by some kind of a desire or the other and the inherent tendencies. And therefore, we as unwise act without any choice because we are pushed to do that by our own desires. And even if it is not, you will say, oh, my wife wants it, my husband wants it, my children wants it, my parents want it, the world demands from me, or my own future. I want to plan for my future savings. So we are all compelled to act. I'll give you an example. You tell, let us say you are married and you have a child, maybe 4 or 5-year-old. You take him to the school he doesn't want to go in the beginning. You take him to school. Say, I am not going. Why? I want to be at home playing with my toys. You have to go to school because you have to study. Why should I study? Then only when you study, you will be able to do well in the school. Why should I do in the well school? Then only you will get a nice college. Why should I go to college? Then only you learn the professional knowledge. Why should I learn a professional knowledge? Then only you can take up a profession. Why do I take a profession? So that you can make a lot of money. Now, why do I need a lot of money? Then you can build a house. You can have a nice car. And you can go to vacation. And slowly, the child says, yes, I want that. So, therefore, go to school. So, only when the desire is shown, action takes place. The child is compelled to go to the school. So, unwise person, prompted by desires, whether one wants it or not, he will go to engage in action. Whereas a person who has knowledge, the wise, upon conquering the desires and vasanas, he acts with choice, converting every action as service to God. A wise person who has no more desires to fulfill, no more vasanas in him, also acts in this world. The difference between the wise and the unwise is unwise compels oneself to act, whereas the wise makes the choice. I want to choose my action. I want to decide what I want to do. Sorry. Not out of any compulsion. Not that I want to fulfill any desire, but as a seva to the Lord, as a service to God, because God is present in all. I want to serve Him through everybody, because I received so much from Him already. And He is in me, working as me. He is in you, working as you. And therefore, I am in touch with Him through work. Through my action, I am constantly serving Him and Him alone. So the wise person chooses to act. So the unwise person not engaging in action while the desires and vasanas are not conquered does not have a choice. Krishna says to Arjuna, even if you do not want to engage in action out of your ahankar, you are compelled by the nature. Even if you mentally think, I have a choice, I don't want to act, you cannot stop. You will be forced. Until knowledge takes place, until the devotion to the Lord is complete, you cannot have a choice but to act. Even if you wish not to act, thinking that you don't have a desire, thinking, not that you are desireless. If you think you have no desire, that's what Arjuna says, no, I don't think I have any intention to fight because I don't want to kill all of these people. So Bhagavan says, even if you do not want to do it, you will do it. Because you have not started to abide in the higher self. You do not have a complete surrender and devotion to God. In the absence of that, your nature will take over. So how should one remember God then? What is the way out? How do I remember God and reach Him? Thereby I can make choices over my action. Is He an external controller or inner controller? Where does He reside? Krishna answers to that. He says, God resides in all beings in their heart. He's not outside somewhere. He's not an external, some object or a person or a power. He is presiding over all being in their own heart. By his power of illusion, he engages us in specific field of action. Remember him as present in you as consciousness that empowers all your limbs and their faculties. Just like electricity is giving light from inside, not outside. You cannot see him outside, but it's inside, you know it. Where is electricity? You say, see the light? Yeah, it is inside the bulb, but expressing as light outside. In the same way, in all things, you take a tree, it is within the tree, expressing through leaves and flowers and fruits. Inside the sun, expressing himself as the light. Inside the air, expressing himself as the movement. Inside the water, expressing himself as the taste. Inside you, expressing as you. Inside me, expressing as me. In all beings, by surrendering to him alone with love, by his grace, you obtain supreme peace and eternality. So that surrender is recognition of the Lord who is within all of us. So Gurudev says, to the extent we identify ourselves with him, To that extent, his light and power becomes ours. And they are called his grace. Prasada. Prasad is not what we receive in the temple. When you go and do some offering, that priest gives you prasad. That's not the one. Prasada is the grace of the Lord. The more you identify, greater grace will be yours. Greater power will be yours. More beautiful verses will come, and we will see that in our next session. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah, Sarve Santu Niramayaha, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschid Dukkhabhat Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.